Good morning and welcome to this week's broadcast. I hope you're all very well. As you can see, I've got our head girl, Caitlin Old, with me, and I thought it'd be a really nice idea following a conversation I had with her and Louis last week regarding feedback that we'd had from Student Parliament. It would be great for her to be able to ask me some of the questions that have come through Student Parliament, and then the whole of the student body to be able to hear some of those responses, and that might provoke some more conversation and discussion at the next Student Parliament. So we're going to have a quick fire Q&A session between Caitlin and myself, and then we'll hand over to Graham as usual for our thought for the week. So Caitlin, what have you got for me?
Are there going to be any more chairs in decaf?
Okay, really interesting one. I've tried to improve the seating arrangements since I came here to have more students able to sit down and eat. And really happy to say that Jane in D Block Dining has done a really good job in making sure there are more seating areas, and she's prioritised certain areas for younger students at the start of lunch so they get the opportunity to sit down. But I'm sure that anybody that's gone in there for the last couple of weeks has noticed a real increase in the amount of chairs and tables. So hopefully we've addressed that. We are limited by space, but we are working on it, and I do think that we've got more opportunities for students to sit down now, which is great.
Year 11s raised the issue of non-negotiables, which they didn't think was particularly beneficial.
Okay, so lots of students will have noticed, hopefully all students will have noticed, these non-negotiable stickers that have come from our English team wanting to really improve the basics in terms of spelling, punctuation and grammar. And because those areas are so important and they secure marks in examinations across a range of subjects now, not just English, we felt it was really important that students are reminded frequently by their teachers that those basics need to be addressed in all parts of their work. So we are continuing with those stickers. They're a really important way of us getting the basics right in terms of our spelling, punctuation and grammar, and I'm sure as we get used to them, they will improve the quality and the standard of our work.
Year 11s and Year 13s were wondering what the arrangement would be for study leave this year.
Okay, really good question. The way that our school has been previously, as an upper school, we had the vast majority of the school on examination season all at one time in the summer, but obviously we've changed and we're now 11 to 19, so examinations only tend to affect Year 11, some Year 12s this year and Year 13. So we are looking at some slightly different study leave arrangements to what we'd previously had. There will be a communication going out this week, and I have taken on board some student voice that I received last week. So we are communicating that information early. You should be receiving a letter, Year 11 and Year 13, by the end of this week before we break up for half term, and that will give you the details of how we're going to arrange study leave for you guys this year.
Will there be any Easter revision sessions, and will there be a cost for them?
Yes, another really good question. Really pleased to see students keen to engage in Easter revision sessions. Of course, we're encouraging Year 11 and Year 13 and Year 12 to be revising continually from this point onwards, so we should be doing lots already, but those Easter sessions are a really good opportunity to consolidate some of that information you need for exams and work with your teachers. We are planning to run the revision sessions over Easter, and we're in that planning process at the moment. There will be a cost involved though, and last year we charged £5 per session. That is very much likely to be the same this year.
Younger years were wondering if they were allowed to wear coats and blazers.
Okay, again, really good question because the weather's been extremely cold recently. Students in Year 11, 10, 8 and 7 do have to wear full school uniform, obviously. That includes the blazer. So at all times during the school day, we expect students to be wearing a blazer. If you are cold, you can wear a coat over the top, but we never say that you can wear a coat instead of a blazer. And I do have to remind certain students on a regular basis about this, but this is a really good opportunity to reinforce that point. Of course, we do have cardigans and jumpers, which are part of the school uniform as well. They can be worn underneath blazers, but again, not instead of a blazer. And it's just really important that we're consistent across all year groups with those expectations.
It's also been raised that the heating across the school site is a bit inconsistent.
Yes, I really appreciate this as well. We've got some really old buildings, and some buildings are really warm and other classrooms can get really cold. So that's where I am prepared to be flexible. If your teacher deems it too cold in a particular classroom and allows you to wear your coats for that lesson, that's absolutely fine. Equally, if the temperature was far too hot in a room, you'd have permission to take your blazers off. We are stuck with the system that we've got. It is difficult to manage at times. And one of the things that we do is we bid for money every year from central government to improve the kind of fabric of the site. So you'll have noticed the windows, doors and roofs have kind of finally finished being replaced after about a year and a half's worth of work. We are putting in future bids, and some of those future bids are focused on improving the heating system across the school.
Students were saying that they're not allowed to go to the toilet during lessons.
This is where, again, another really good question. We allow a degree of professional judgment for teachers when they allow students to go to the toilet. Obviously, we want students in lessons a maximum amount of time because that's where you're learning and that's where you're best off. However, there might be some occasions where students do need to visit the toilet, and I need to ask teachers to use their professional judgment about whether it's appropriate to allow that young person to go to the toilet or not. We do have out-of-class passes, which we should expect to be issued to students when they ask to leave the room. But there's a responsibility there. We're at secondary school now, so we need to be using break times and lunch times to go to the toilet. So if you're asking to go and we're just into period 5 or we're just into period 3 and you've just had a break, then actually that's not really an acceptable thing. And I often challenge students who are going to visit the toilet after the bell has gone for the start of one of those lessons, and I always say to them, you've just had 20 minutes at lunch or 40 minutes at lunch or 20 minutes at break, and you should have used that time to go to the toilet. So it's not like we're banned from using the toilet during lessons. Teachers have to use their professional judgment. It might also depend on how much work you've done in that lesson, how hard you've been trying, but please do use breaks and lunch times to visit the toilet.
Show my homework. Some teachers use it, some teachers don't.
Okay, and I listened to what Caitlin and Louis said to me last week about this, and it's really important that we are consistent with Show My Homework. That is the vehicle that we use to distribute homework to students. That's where the information is. That's where your parents can see it. It's where you can see it. And it's what our teachers use to kind of send that homework message out. Students have said that they felt sometimes it was inconsistent and sometimes they didn't know homework had been placed on there. And I'm going to take that feedback on board, and I will talk to our staff about making sure that we are really consistent with putting homework on Show My Homework and letting you know that it's on there. A positive, though, is that the company who owns Show My Homework communicated with us recently to say that we're one of the top users in the school. Actually, although some of our students might be a little bit frustrated with some inconsistency, we are one of the most consistent users in the country, and we use it a lot more frequently than many other schools who subscribe to it. So there's lots of positives there, and we only introduced it last year, and obviously we're still working towards a perfect system, but it's really good to have feedback from students on that.
Is there a possibility for more water pumps around the site?
Yes, and again, a really interesting point. I want students to have access to water. It's really important you've got that. And we do have it around the site, but we've got a large site, and I appreciate that some students might have to travel some distance to get access to water. I am going to be speaking to the site team to see if it's a possibility to get some more water coolers in certain areas of the school. Can't promise anything because we might be limited by the nature of our building, but I will be asking them that question to see if we can do that. Is
there potential for us to host more charity events throughout the year?
Well, one of the things that I think we're really good at is supporting charities. I've never worked at a school where we have so many events raising money for really good causes, and that really impresses me about the nature of our students, that we're a really caring community. Is there opportunity to do more? Yes, of course there is. Lots of people are always coming to me and saying, I'd like to do this particular event to raise money for this particular charity. And I very rarely say no. I always like for us to be able to support charity work. One of the things we can't do, though, is have a non-uniform day every single week. So when people come to me and say, can we have a non-uniform day? I do normally say no to that one because we use our non-uniform days normally about once per term for the national events like Red Nose Day or Children in Need or Sport Relief and things like that. But I am always keen to support other events. Lots of people do cake sales, and I've seen a couple of ideas for talent contests coming up. So I'm always really keen to support students who want to raise money for charity. And again, it's just coming about talking to me and having realistic expectations about what you can do.
The lower years would like to know if they could have shorts in the summer.
Okay, this is an interesting one. I can't promise anything. It's an interesting question. I will speak to our uniform manufacturer to see if they produce a short which could go with our uniform. and I will look into whether that is a possibility. It does get hot, certainly in the summer months, and if the younger students have raised that as a legitimate question, and if I get to a point with the uniform manufacturer where I think it would look smart and keep in line with the ethos of our uniform, then it's something that we could potentially introduce. But again, I can't promise anything, but I will look into it and investigate.
There's been an issue raised about younger year classes coming into the library for English lessons.
Okay, this was something that actually I was really happy about, the fact that we've got once a fortnight English classes in Key Stage 3 going into the library and doing some silent personal reading. We want to encourage students to read more, to read for pleasure more. Any kind of educational research that you look at shows that students who read for pleasure tend to do better in their exams. So we want to inspire a love of reading in students across the school, and our library is a fabulous resource. It's improved so much, especially for its suitability for our younger year groups. And I'm really pleased that the English team have actually introduced that, and I've been in there on several occasions recently where students have been focused and quiet, and I think it's really good. I think it speaks volumes for the type of ethos and culture that we're trying to establish in that area. I appreciate that 30 people coming in and then 30 people leaving. There is an element of disruption with that, and I know sixth formers use that area really well to work hard with our silent study area downstairs and of course the Q zone upstairs. So we are going to persist with it. I'm really happy with the way that the English team are managing it, and I'm really happy with the rationale behind it. So we are going to continue with it, but it's just a good signpost to let younger students know that when you are entering the library, there are post-16 students working in there in silence, and we do need to be really quiet.
Is there a possibility to increase the range of library books by maybe having a book swap or donation service in the library?
Yeah, I think this is a really nice idea. So I'll be speaking with the library staff. I think the ladies in there have done an absolutely superb job in bringing in reading material that is appealing to younger students and really making it a vibrant area for students to go and visit, to get involved in reading. I really like the idea of book swaps and book donations. We have staff bringing in their old books, lots, quite frequently actually, and swapping books. So it'd be really good if students could do that as well. I remember Louis also mentioned to me that we could potentially donate old textbooks, which I think again is a really good idea if some of our students go through GCSEs and they're finished with their revision guides and then move on to A-levels. There's no reason why they couldn't share those resources, and younger students in the school could benefit from those. So I think that's a really good idea. I'll speak to the ladies in the library, see if it's something that we can organise. But again, thank you for the students that have raised that as a really good point.
Could we possibly have recycling bins around the site?
Recycling bins is an interesting one. We have tried to recycle paper more frequently than we used to. But one of the problems that I've experienced in other schools is when you have recycling bins, they tend to get full up of other rubbish, and then it's very difficult for them to actually, the content in them to be recycled. So you actually see them much less frequently in schools nowadays because of that issue. And we've got a huge amount of bins around the site, and generally we're pretty good with litter. There are still some people that are quite careless and drop it, and that's an area that we do need to improve on. But really, I don't think we're going to be able to have recycling bins around the site. But if any students want to kind of take it upon themselves to improve the way that we recycle, certainly paper, then I'm more than happy to have conversations with them about that.
It was raised that some of the homework being set is not relevant to what students feel is relevant to what they're doing in class.
Okay, and again, this kind of links in with the show my homework question, so I'm really glad students have raised that. I'm really quite clear when it comes to homework that we should only be setting homework if it is either consolidating learning that you've previously done or preparing you for future learning in the next lesson. I don't think we should be setting homework for the sake of setting homework. It's got to have an impact on student learning, and it's just interesting to receive that feedback from students, and I guess I'll take that on board as well as all the rest of the staff. But again, that's a kind of one of our principles of setting homework, is that it's got to be relevant. So thank you for the students for those comments, and we'll take those on board and certainly make sure that any homework that we are setting is doing one of those two things: consolidating learning or extending learning or preparing you for future learning.
Could the TED Talks that are seen in post-16 mental time be seen by year 10s and 11s as well, because we find they're very helpful?
Yeah, I see absolutely no reason why we can't do this. It's really good that the sixth form students have enjoyed those TED Talks. They are thought-provoking and they are interesting to watch. and some of our Year 10 students have asked if they can possibly view some of these as well. So if you're able to fit them in amongst the other activities that you do during mentor time, I think it's a really nice thing for Year 10 students to be able to watch. So I'll ask Mrs. Raywood to kind of distribute those resources to Year 10 mentors, and then leave it up to Year 10 mentors to try and fit that in throughout the week wherever it's possible for them. Okay. Listen, that was really good, really nice way to start the week. Really important that we hear student voice and it comes through the right channels through our student parliament. So please speak to your form reps about when the next meeting is and any feedback that you've got or any other questions that you want to discussing at the next student parliament. And then Caitlin and Louis will bring those issues back to me, and hopefully we can start to move things forward so that students have a really important voice in how the kind of school evolves and improves over time. So thank you for listening. Thank you for Caitlin for her contributions, and we'll hand you over to Graham now for our thought for the week. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Good morning, everybody. And today's thought for the week is this: love your neighbour as yourself. And the theme for this week in Assemblies is love and compassion. And you know, as a C of E school, we have been looking at the Christian values that are really quite central to what we believe in ethos as a school. We've been looking at respect and forgiveness. We'll be looking at humility. And of course, this week, love and compassion is right there at the heart of how we see things. And it's really quite a wonderful ethos. And I don't know if you know this, but our vision statement as a school is enabling every young person to learn, flourish and succeed. And that's a great mission statement. It really is. It's very powerful. Every young person to learn, flourish and succeed. And do you know what? If you add love to all of that, it helps. It is so useful as a life skill and life decision. St. Paul says this: love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonour others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. I find that description amazing. We just think of love now. It's something I believe Hollywood has made cheap and empty. But love is incredible. It's such an amazing way of life. And that little small word helps us even with our mission statement. You think of patience, rejoicing with truth, always persevering. That has got to help with learning. And I don't want to stretch the issue, but I really believe that love is a powerful thing that helps in a spectrum of life decisions and skills and things that we need to do. And do you know what? All of that helps us, all of that description helps us to flourish and to succeed. If we're patient in life, to flourish and succeed is so wonderful. We need patience. To be kind and not to envy. What's the point in envying? We do things ourselves, we persevere. It doesn't boast. It's not proud. People don't like those attributes, you know. And if we are humble and we live like that, people pick that up and they love it. It doesn't talk about people behind their backs. It doesn't dishonour others. You know, it's quite incredible. And to be self-seeking, me, all about me. People don't like that. It doesn't work, you know. And to not easily be angered, not to keep a record when people mess up. Love doesn't delight in evil. Evil is bad. We keep away from it. Bad decisions and bad things that people do. but we do rejoice with truth. And we want to protect people. And we want to trust people. We want to be trustworthy. And we always carry hope and perseverance. See, that's what it is to love. Little tiny word, huge, huge meaning. Jesus, he's the one who said, love your neighbour as yourself. And someone said, but who's my neighbour? And so he told the story of the Good Samaritan. And in those days, it was very racist, very tribal. And a Samaritan was a different sort of tribe, different race of people to those he was talking to. And so he looked at a Samaritan who helped somebody who'd been robbed and beaten up. And the Samaritan turned out to be a really good guy. And he says, this is your neighbour. This person is your neighbour. And he was saying that we need to love everybody. We care for everybody. No room for racism and not looking after others just because we don't know them. And in that story, the love overflows into compassion. Compassion is wonderful. It's when we see a problem and we are part of the solution of that problem. It's helping to sort things out. And we all love children in need. And it's wonderful. It helps those who are struggling. But also comic relief. I love that as well. That is more focused on people overseas and helping wherever help is needed. Okay then, so this is a message that says be filled with love and compassion because it's good. It's a good life choice. Let's learn, let's flourish and succeed as we carry this message in our hearts. Love your neighbour as yourself. It's a really fantastic thought to have this week. I just have one notice. I just want to raise the profile of the Wellbeing Room over in Auburn Place. This is open for everybody. And it's specifically for those who are struggling with all sorts of things. They just want to talk, want a bit of space to go and maybe sit with other people or to be quiet. And even if you're not feeling like that at the moment, it'd be good to go and familiarise yourself with the place. In Auburn Place, it's A1. It's just on the left as you go in through the door. And all years are welcome to go and check that place out. So anyway, that's it. God bless you. Have a fantastic week.